The Colonial Parkway murders were the slayings of at least 8 people, apparently by a serial killer along the Colonial Parkway of the U.S. Commonwealth of Virginia, or nearby, between 1986 and 1989. During that time, 3 couples were murdered and 1 couple is missing and presumed to be dead. The killer has not been identified. Victims. First couple. The first 2 known victims were United States Naval Academy class of 1981 graduate Kathleen Thomas, 27, and College of William and Mary senior Rebecca Andowski, 21. On October 12, 1986, Columbus Day weekend, their bodies were found inside Thomas' white 1980 Honda Civic at the Cheatham Annex overlook along the Colonial Parkway in Williamsburg, Virginia. An autopsy found rope burns on their necks and wrists, signs of strangulation. Their throats had been slashed, and diesel fuel was poured over the bodies and the car, but the car failed to ignite. Their purses and money were found inside the car. It appears that Thomas may have struggled with her attacker, as a clump of hair was later found between her fingers. Both women were fully clothed and there was no evidence of robbery or sexual assault. It was considered a murder. Second couple. On September 20, 1987, David Knobling, 20, and Robin Edwards, 14, were shot to death in the Ragged Island Wildlife Refuge, on the south shore of the James River in Isle of Wight County, near Smithfield, Virginia. Knobling's black Ford Ranger pickup truck was found at the refuge parking area next to the James River Bridge with the wipers and radio on and some articles of clothing inside. 3 days later, the 2 bodies were discovered by Knobling's father and a search party along the water's edge of the James River. Third couple. On April 10, 1988, Christopher Newport University students Cassandra Lee Haley, 18, and Richard Keith Call, 20, were reported missing after attending a party in the University Square area in Newport News during their first date together. Call's red 1982 Toyota Celica was found, unoccupied, at the York River overlook on the Colonial Parkway the next day with some articles of clothing inside. Their bodies have never been found, but both are presumed dead. Fourth couple. On September 5, 1989, just after Labor Day weekend, Anna Maria Phelps, 18, and Daniel Lauer, 21, vanished while en route to Virginia Beach. Phelps had been dating Lauer's brother at the time they went missing. Lauer's car, a gold 1972 Chevrolet Nova, was soon found abandoned at the I-64 New Kent rest stop in New Kent County, and it was discovered to have been heading in the wrong direction, away from their intended Virginia Beach destination. On October 19, 1989, the skeletonized bodies of Phelps and Lauer were found in a wooded area by hunters along Interstate 64 between Williamsburg and Richmond. The hunters discovered the bodies on a logging road about a quarter of a mile from Courthouse Road, a location about a mile from the I-64 New Kent rest stop where Lauer's car was found. At least one of the badly decomposed bodies appears to have suffered knife wounds. Media coverage. In 1991, the Virginian Pilot ran a 3-part series on the Colonial Parkway murders by reporter Greg Schneider, who was permitted special access to FBI lead investigator Robert Meadows. The series was published again by the paper in 2010.in 1996. The unsolved case of the Colonial Parkway murders was presented on national television on the program Real Stories of the Highway Patrol, a series that aired from 1993-1999. Actor Steve Altz portrayed the killer. In 2007, the disappearance and presumed murder of Cassandra Haley and Keith Call was featured in the investigation discovery program Sensing Murder, whereby investigators brought in psychics Pam Coronado and Lori Campbell to gain new insights into the crimes. The show mentioned that this disappearance may be part of the Colonial Parkway murders. Psychic Pam Coronado felt that the killings were all related, but that the locations of the cars were not where the actual violence occurred. In 2008, Entertainment Television presented a full-length documentary, THS Investigates Serial Killers on the Loose, which features a segment on the Colonial Parkway murders. In September 2009, It was discovered by CBS News affiliate WTKR that nearly 80 highly graphic crime scene photographs of Colonial Parkway murders victims were used to instruct a class by a retired and now deceased former FBI photographer. Former WTKR investigative reporter Mike Mather found that much of the evidence, stored for over 2 decades, had yet to be tested for DNA and other trace evidence. In January 2010, a team from FBI Norfolk and FBI headquarters met with the victims' families to update them on the status of the investigation. In 2010, the Daily Virginian Pilot ran a photo essay on the case entitled, "A Cold Case Heats Up: The Colonial Parkway Murders." In 2011, author Michelle McNamara, author of I'll Be Gone in the Dark, on the Golden State Killer, later an HBO series, published a 2-part exploration of the Colonial Parkway murders in her True Crime Diary. In 2013, the Colonial Parkway murders were profiled in the investigation Discovery television series Dark Minds, with host and true crime author M. William Phelps. In October-November 2015, the Colonial Parkway murders were featured in a 3-part podcast series produced by student journalists at College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, VA. In February to May 2016, the Unsolved podcast in Baltimore, MD did a 4-part podcast series. Each episode focused on one of the double homicides in the Colonial Parkway murders. In August 2016, the Real Crime Profile, RCP, True Crime Podcast began a 4-part series on the Colonial Parkway murders in RCP episodes 32-35. In October 2016, there was extensive coverage of the 30th anniversary of the Colonial Parkway murders, including an 8-part multimedia presentation by the Daily Press newspaper. On October 8, 2016, the Richmond Times-Dispatch ran an in-depth article on the 30th anniversary of the Colonial Parkway murders case. After 30 years, relatives in Parkway murders hope for a break in cases. On October 8, 2016, the Virginian Pilot published in-depth story, "The Killer Could Still Be Out There." 30 years later, still no answers in the Colonial Parkway murders. On May 4, 2018, the Colonial Parkway murders were covered and featured panel discussion at the annual CrimeCon True Crime Convention in Nashville. Moderated by former FBI Special Agent Maureen O'Connell, the panel featured family members and advocates Joyce Call and Bill Thomas along with Blaine Pardoe, co-author of a book on the case, A Special Kind of Evil: The Colonial Parkway Serial Killings. On June 25, 2018, editors at Listverse released a new article, 10 Disturbing Facts About the Colonial Parkway Murders. In July 2018, podcast True Crime Garage ran a 2-part series on the Colonial Parkway murders in TCG episodes 226 and 227. On July 3, 2018, true crime journalist Mike Morford debuted a new podcast, The Murder in My Family. His first guest was victim advocate Bill Thomas discussing the loss of his sister, Kathy Thomas, and her girlfriend, Rebecca Dowski, as part of the Colonial Parkway murders. On July 23, 2018, WTVR News 6 in Richmond reported that there was additional DNA evidence available for testing in the Colonial Parkway murders. In August 2018, journalist John Quasar launched a 6-part exploration of the unsolved case entitled, The Phantom of the Colonial Parkway, for his investigative website The Quester Files. On October 26, 2018, Dateline NBC released Dateline Crime Capsule, The Colonial Parkway Murders, which offered a look into the history of the case. On December 3, 2018, the popular true crime podcast Crime Junkie launched a 2-part report on the Colonial Parkway murders. On December 22, 2018, veteran reporter Mike Holzclaw wrote an article for the Daily Press marking Colonial Parkway murders whistleblower Fred Atwell's passing titled, Former Deputy's Death Leaves Parkway Victims' Families Wondering What He Knew. On April 25, 2019, the New York Times published a story on the use of DNA in the Golden State Killer case, the Colonial Parkway murders and other unsolved homicides, titled "Sooner or Later, Your Cousin's DNA is Going to Solve a Murder." On July 30, 2019, the Washington Post magazine ran a story on the search for answers in the Colonial Parkway murders and other cases, titled "Victims, Families and America's Thirst for True Crime Stories." On September 12, 2019, the Hunt a Killer blog published a case analysis under the title "Unsolved: The Colonial Parkway Murders." On October 9, 2019, true crime podcasters Crawl Space began a two-part exploration of the unsolved Colonial Parkway murders. The episodes were also broadcast on their sister podcast, Missing Maura Murray. In January 2020, journalist Bill Huffman covered the Colonial Parkway murders as part of his "Who Killed?" podcast series on unsolved cases. In September 2020, the Unresolved podcast released an episode on the Colonial Parkway murders, which featured a lengthy history and analysis of the unsolved case. On September 17, 2020, the publication Forensic Genomics published an article by family member Bill Thomas covering the Colonial Parkway murders entitled "The Family Perspective." In December 2020, the Mind Over Murder true crime podcast began a three-part series on victim advocacy in the Colonial Parkway murders. In their episodes 49-51. On January 15, 2021, the Oxygen Network announced that a four-part true crime series, Lover's Lane Murders, would cover the Colonial Parkway murders. The 4 episodes were to feature a former FBI profiler, Jim Clemente, as well as investigators including former FBI agent Maureen O'Connell and former prosecutor Lonnie Coombs, together with crime scene reconstruction expert Dr. Laura Petler. The series makes its debut on February 11-12, 2021. On February 4, 2021, in advance of their Lover's Lane Murders television series, the Oxygen Network released a series of videos including "Why Would Law Enforcement Not Release All Records on a Case Like the Colonial Parkway Murders?" and "Was the Colonial Parkway Killer Pretending to Be Law Enforcement?" On February 9, 2021, Access Hollywood presented a television series about the Colonial Parkway murders. Spingola Profile. In June 2010, the victims' families requested the assistance of a retired Milwaukee Police Department homicide detective, Steve Spingola. In 2010, Spingola published Predators on the Parkway, a 29-page magazine article that detailed his findings. Spingola proposed that the murders are the work of different killers, especially the slayings of Kathleen Thomas and Rebecca Dowski. Spingola believes the Thomas Dowski crimes are directly linked to the deaths of Lolly Winans and Julie Williams, who were found with their throats slashed in the Shenandoah National Park, 180 miles west of the Colonial Parkway, in 1996. 2010 note. In 2010, a note was discovered in a box taken years earlier from Anna Maria Phelps' apartment. The note, which was undated and purportedly written by Phelps, indicated that she was to meet someone in a blue van at a rest stop. While the Virginia State Police claimed the information in this note was previously examined, one of the state police investigators working during the 1989 Phelps-Lauer murders told a television reporter from Wavy TV that he was unaware of the existence of the note. See also List of fugitives from justice who disappeared. List of serial killers in the United States. Murder Accountability Project tracking America's unsolved homicides. References. Further reading. Pardo, Blaine Lee, Hester, Victoria, 2017. A Special Kind of Evil. The Colonial Parkway Serial Killings. ISBN 9781942266990. OCLC 10028856656.